Hey y'all, Michelle Raza here with the Finding Yourself Book Club, and today we're going to continue talking about Lindsay Gibson's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. We did take a little reprieve from John Gottman's What Makes Love Last. That's the other book I have here. If you haven't had a chance, please do check out that series. That's where we cover basically how to not be an idiot in your relationships. John Gottman is a master of relationships. He studied thousands of couples in what he calls the love lab. So his works are all evidence-based, and I can tell you personally that the advice in these works really does help. Please do check out our website. We're at www.findingyourselfsatx.com. There you can fill out a questionnaire, a life balance questionnaire. You can just use that to assess your own life balance and work on it on your own. You can also contact us for a free consult. You can write on our homepage, you can fill out the Contact Us site, or you can go to the Contact Us tab and reach out directly through email, text, or call us. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Last video we covered a lot about, so we're in chapter 8, how to avoid getting hooked by an emotionally immature parent. And we talked about Annie's story. And these stories, I will tell you, I mean, they're heavy, right? When I read them with you all, they're very heavy for me. And I can see, I can see pieces of people that I know, my own life experiences. So if you're feeling that heaviness, I think it's just normal, right? We're all dealing with this, and we're walking through it together. Okay, trying to find the page. If you haven't checked out our video, our summary video of this chapter, please go back in the playlist and find it. It is chapter 8 in Lindsay Gibson's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And then you can also just pick up your own copy and look at it. It's a really good book. Sorry, give me a second here because I'm struggling to find the stories. Okay. So it was Annie's story. Annie's story continued, which we did last video, and then here is Rochelle's story. Rochelle's mother was a very demanding woman who expected Rochelle to be at her beck and call. As Rochelle put it, I used to feel like I couldn't be okay unless my mother changed and acknowledged me. But when Rochelle decided to observe her mother's emotional immaturity, instead of being automatically hurt by it, she felt a profound change. For the first time, I saw her behavior for what it was. I didn't get angry or disappointed like before, when I felt like I had to get her to acknowledge me. Because Rochelle had worked on acknowledging herself and her genuine feelings toward her mother, she no longer felt like she had to play a certain role or fulfill her mother's healing fantasy by pouring attention on her. I no longer feel compelled to jump in immediately and be the good daughter for her. I don't have to take on her problems. Rochelle now calls her mother when she feels like it, and she feels free now to say no to her mother's requests. And now that she doesn't feel obligated to put on the role self of the dutiful daughter, Rochelle actually feels free to be more relaxed around her mom. So I thought there were more stories in here. There's not, but I can go quickly over some of the highlights. And I think I don't want to duplicate what I did in the other video, but just want to give you guys a little nugget of information here, and then hopefully you'll go back and watch the summary we had on chapter 8. Okay, so the first part of Annie's story focuses on the fantasy that a parent will change. And then breaking away from all of that is where you start forging a new relationship. So if you want to keep your relationship with your loved ones who are emotionally immature, first off, it doesn't matter how emotionally mature you are or emotionally intelligent you are, you cannot force somebody else to match you. You instead have to kind of match them. So if you want to keep a relationship with them, you have to forge a new relationship, which starts with detached observation. So instead of reacting to everything they do and say and feeling hurt by it, you just have to kind of take a few steps back. She talks here about becoming observational as opposed to being wrapped up in what they're doing. And then relatedness versus relationship. The long story short here is that you can't have an emotionally fulfilling relationship with someone who is not ready to be on the other side of that. You can have relatedness, you're a blood relation, you have events that you have to do together or things that you do together, but you don't necessarily have an emotional relationship with them. And it ultimately, it's about you and what you can control. And so you have to get to the point where you are okay with the level of love that they can give. And that's very, very, very hard. But that's what she's trying to get us to understand here. Okay? And then the maturity awareness approach is focusing on expressing and then letting go. They're not necessarily going to react the way you want them to, and that's fine. But you still have a right to express yourself. So you express what it is you need to say and then let go. You can't control how they're going to react. And you want to focus on the outcome. What is the outcome of what you want from here? Not necessarily the relationship. You're not going to have the emotionally fulfilling relationship that you're craving. And then managing your interactions with them, not necessarily engaging with them. Excuse me. And so that's where, like Annie, she makes sure that she invites her parents to something that has a concrete beginning and an end, or just being able to say, hey, you know, I'm on call for XYZ, you make it up, but you leave. At the point where you feel that you can't tolerate this anymore, you have to have an out. Like, don't go in the same car as them somewhere if you know that you might get overwhelmed and you need to leave. Just have a plan for being able to cut the interaction short so that you don't feed that negativity. Okay, and then there are some concerns here about the maturity awareness approach, which I think I do actually have time to cover. So I'll go ahead and cover it. And then continue on the next video on how it feels to live free of roles and fantasies. Some common concerns about the maturity awareness approach. People who hear about this approach for the first time tend to have certain concerns about it, especially about using it with their parents. Excuse me. Here are a few that I hear most often with a response to each. Concern. This sounds like a cold and unrewarding way to have a relationship with my parents. I don't want to be thinking every second I'm with them. Response. If things are going well and you're enjoying being with your parents, there's no need to use this approach. But if you're getting emotional, angry, or disappointed, it's best to switch over to observing objectively and managing the interaction. You aren't being cold, you're focusing on what helps you maintain emotional balance. Concern. I feel guilty and devious when I keep some mental distance from my parents. I want to be open and natural with them. Response. Observing consciously doesn't mean being devious or deceptive. It means keeping yourself from being drawn into a whirlpool of reactions that make things worse for everybody. As an adult, you want to be able to think as an individual, including amidst interactions with other people. Having clear self-awareness doesn't mean you're being disloyal. Concern. It's all very nice to advocate not being emotional around your parents, but you haven't seen how intense and manipulative my parents can be. I get overwhelmed by the intensity of their reactions. Response. We can all get overwhelmed by another person's emotion. That's known as emotional contagion. But you'll feel more secure if you set an intention of observing what's happening rather than becoming swept up in it. Even a bit of observation will help lift you out of the pressure to feel others' distress. It's their distress, not yours. You might feel some of it, but you don't have to become as distressed as they are. Concern. My parents have been very good to me. They paid for my education and loaned me money. I would feel disrespectful if I saw them as emotionally immature. It doesn't seem right to think about them this way. Response. There's nothing right or wrong about thoughts. You aren't being disrespectful by being truthful with yourself about your parents' emotional limitations. To be an emotionally mature adult, you must be free to observe and assess others in the privacy of your own mind. It isn't disloyal to have your own opinion. You can respect your parents for everything they've given you, but you don't have to pretend they have no human frailties. As we discussed in Chapter 2, satisfying a child's physical and financial needs is not the same as meeting that child's emotional needs. For instance, if you needed someone to listen, to provide essential emotional connection, receiving money or a good education might distract you from that need, but it wouldn't fill it. Concern. How in the world do I stay calm and keep observing when my parents are making me feel guilty? Response. Center yourself by focusing on your breath as it flows in and out. Feeling guilty isn't an emergency. Observe what's going on and silently narrate it to yourself in specific words. Mentally describing what's happening helps you move from your brain's emotional centers to its more objective, logical areas. Another strategy is to count. How many seconds did your parents go on that time? You might look at a clock and decide how much longer you're willing to listen. When that time is up, interrupt politely and say you have to leave or get off the phone soon. Say you have something to do, then disengage. You can also talk kindly to yourself. There's no reason to feel guilt. They're trying to push their feelings on me. I haven't done anything wrong. I have a right to an opinion. Try reminding yourself that your parent is attempting a diversion and that it's just like dealing with an upset toddler. The unpleasantness will be over sooner if you stay calm and focused on your desired outcome instead of getting into the fray, no matter how much you want to. Concern. I can learn and practice these skills while I'm sitting calmly by myself, but it all goes out the window when my parents start criticizing me. I feel as nervous as a place kicker in the Super Bowl. How can I ever be calm enough to observe or manage them? The Super Bowl place kicker may be nervous, but you can be sure he's working to be as calm as he can. A big part of sports psychology is learning how to relax when under stress. Your goal is to practice being a little less nervous than usual by focusing on the outcome you want. This isn't the Super Bowl. There's no pressure because you're no longer struggling to gain anything. You don't need the negativity your parents dish up. It isn't about winning or losing. It's about freeing yourself from reacting to your parents' emotional contagion. Concern. I worry so much about my parents. They're always unhappy about something. I just want to make them feel better. Response. You can't. Have you noticed that no matter what you do, your parents don't stay happy for long? Just because they're complaining doesn't necessarily mean that their goal is to feel better. That's your interpretation. Treat them nicely, but don't bleed for them. Their healing story and role selves may require a lot of suffering and complaining. It isn't your job to abandon your own path and try to push them from behind. If you do, they're likely to become even more difficult and unpleasant. So again, heavy stuff here. If you want to talk about it, give me a call. Next video, we will move on to Chapter 9, how it feels to live free of roles and fantasies. I'll try and do a little bit of homework before I'm on camera and then have to pause it to figure out where the stories are. Glad to be here with you guys. Very, very happy for all of the comments that you've been leaving on the videos. Please do leave more comments. And if you get a chance, please check out our other playlist on what makes love last. I'm very passionate about this project. I know it hasn't received as many hits as Lindsay Gibson stuff. But really, if you give it a chance, I think you'll find that it's worthwhile. All right, cool. Look forward to talking with you guys. Thanks for all of your comments, the emails, everything. It's been so great, and we'll talk more soon. Bye-bye.